In this video, we will take a deep dive into John Wick Chapter 4. We will break down the storyline, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and character. We will also look at the film production detail in box office performance. Finally, we share reviews and personal reaction. So, let's get started. When we talk about the modern cinema, it's almost impossible not to mention John Wick Chapter 4. This film is not just another entry in a popular franchise, it represents how far the action genre has evolved over the year. As a reviewer, this is exactly the kind of the movie that invite deeper discussion, not only because of what happened on screen but because of how it is made. Let's start with the genre itself. Action films have always been about excitement, fast pacing, intense fight, and high stake. But what makes John Wick Chapter 4 stand out is how it elevates the action genre into something almost artistic. Instead of relying purely on quick cuts and loud explosion, the movie carefully choreographed each sequence. Each movement feel deliberate, almost like watching a dance. This kung fu style, combining martial arts with precise gunplay, gives the film a unique identity that separates it from typical action blockbuster. Now, when we look at the director Chad Stahelski, we begin to understand why the films feel so refined. Stahelski comes from a stunt and a choreography background, and that experience shows in every frame. He does not just direct action, he built it from ground up. You can see his focus on clarity, rhythm, and physical performance. Unlike many modern films where action can feel chaotic or hard to follow, here everything is clean and purposeful. The audience always know what is happening, which makes every punch, every shot, and every fall feel more impactful. Another reason this film deserves discussion in its production style. Visually, the movie is stunning. It uses lighting, color, and location in ways that feel almost cinematic poetry. From neon lit street to grand historical setting, every environment is carefully chosen to enhance the mood. The film moves across multiple countries, and each location has its own visual identity. This global scale not only add variety but also give the story a larger, almost mythological feel. The camera work is another standout element. Instead of cutting rapidly between shots, the film you often uses long takes that allow the action to unfold naturally. This choice requires a high level of coordination between actors, stunt performers, and the camera crew. It's a risky approach, but when done right as it is here, it creates a sense of immersion that's hard to achieve. Otherwise, you do not just watch the action, you feel like you are part of it. We should also take a moment to appreciate the commitment to practical effect in an era where many films rely heavily on CGI. John Wick Chapter 4 leans toward real stunt and physical performance. This gives the movie a grounded, authentic feel. When a character falls, crashes, or fights, it looks real because in many ways it is real. That authenticity adds weight to every scene and keep the audience fully engaged. But beyond the technical brilliance, what truly makes this movie worth discussing and how it blends style with substances. Yes, it's an action film, but it also about discipline, control, and survival within a strict and often unforgiving system. The world building thorough subtitle is rich and consistent, making the story feel more immersive. The production budget of the film reflect a carefully scaled expansion of the franchise, reaching an estimated cost of around $100 million. This figure make it the most expensive film in the series, but it is important to understand that this increase did not happen suddenly. Instead, it follows steady progression from the early film, each of which grew in both popularity and financial backing. The original John Wick has a relatively modest budget, and as the series proved its success, more resources were gradually invested into expanding its scope, scale, and technical quality. A significant portion of the budget was directed toward action, choreography, and stunt work, which are central to the film identity. Under the direction of Chad Stahelski, who has a background in stunt coordination, the film emphasized practical action over digital effect. This approach required extensive planning, long rehearsal period, and highly skilled performance. Unlike CGI heavy production, practical stunt demand precision and repetition, which can increase both time and cost. However, this investment results in action sequences that feel more realistic and immersive, contributing directly to the film's appeal. Another major area of spending was the use of international location. The film was shot across several countries, including Japan, Germany, and France, which adds visual diversity and authenticity to the film. Filming into multiple locations involves complex logistics such as travel, accommodation, permits, and local production support. These elements significantly raise the overall cost, but they also enhance the film's global atmosphere and cinematic scale. Instead of relying on studio sets or digital background, the production choose real environment which add depth and realism to the final product. Cast salaries also play an important role in the overall budget allocation as the franchise grew in success. Actors such as Keanu or Reeves commanded higher compensation. Additionally, the inclusion of internationally recognized performers like Donnie and contributed to the film's global appeal but also increased talent related expenses. These casting decisions were strategic as they help expand the audience base while maintaining strong performances. The film also invested heavily in cinematography and production design. Its visual style is one of its defining features, with carefully controlled lighting, color scheme, and camera movement. Long takes and wide shots require more coordination and technical expertise than rapid editing, which again add to the production cost. The creative decision to prioritize visual clarity and artistic presentation require advanced equipment and experienced crew member further influence the budget. When compared to the other action film, the budget of the film can be seen as relatively efficient. Many modern action or franchise films often exceed $150 million or even $200 million, especially those that rely heavily on visual effect and large-scale CGI environment. In contrast, this film achieved a similar level of spectacle through practical technique and disciplined resources allocation. This makes it a strong example of how thoughtful production choices can maximize value without requiring excessive spending. Overall, the budget of John Wick Chapter 4 demonstrates a balanced approach to filmmaking. Resources were allocated in a way that support the film's core strength, particularly its action design, global scale, and visual style, rather than overspending in unnecessary areas. The production focus on elements that directly enhance the viewer experience, resulting in a film that feels both expensive and carefully crafted. The genre of the film firmly sits within the action thriller category, but limiting it to just that would overlook the richness of cinematic identity. While it delivers everything expected from high intensity action film, gunfights, chases, and physical combat, it also incorporates elements of crime drama and even a subtitle sense of mythological storytelling. This layered genre approach gives the film a distinctive presence, separating it from more conventional action movies that rely slowly on spectacle. At its core, the film's atmosphere is intense, immersive, and carefully controlled. From the very beginning, there is a sense of tension that rarely fades. The world feels dangerous and unforgiving, where every corner hides a potential threat. This atmosphere is not created through chaos but through precision. The environment, whether dimly lit interior or vast urban landscape, are designed to reflect a balance between beauty and danger. Neon lights, shadows, and reflective surface are used not just for visual appeal but to create a mood that feels both stylish and ominous. The pacing of the film is an other defining characteristics. Unlike many action films that rush from one sequence to another, John Wick Chapter 4 take its time. It allows moments to breathe, building anticipation before releasing it through extended action sequence. These sequences are often long and continuous, giving the audience time to fully absorb the choreography and physicality of each fight. The slower build-up followed by explosive action create a rhythm that feels deliberate, engaging rather than overwhelming. Director Chad Stahelski play a crucial role in shaping this pacing. His background in stunt coordination influences how scenes unfold, emphasizing clarity over confusion. The camera often remains steady or moves smoothly, allowing viewer to follow the action without distraction. These stylistic choices enhance the overall experience, making each moment feel grounded despite the film's larger than life scenario. In terms of tone, the film maintains a serious and often sober mood. There is very little humor, and when it does appear, it is subtitled and understated. The dominating tone is one of determination, isolation, and inevitability. The protagonist, portrayed by Keanu Reeves, carries a quiet intensity that reflects the film's emotional core. His character speaks little, but his actions and expression convey a deep sense of exhaustion and resolve. This restrained performance contributes to the film's overall tone, reinforcing the idea of a man trapped in a relentless cycle of violence. Stylistically, the movie leans heavily into visual storytelling. Color play a significant role, with each setting having its own palette that influence the mood of the scene. Warm tones might suggest tension or danger, with cooler tones create a sense of distance or isolation. Lightning is used to highlight movement and shape, often turning action sequence into visually striking composition. In many ways, the film feels almost like a moving painting where every frame is carefully constructed. Another notable stylistic element is the use of symmetry and spatial design. Scenes are often framed in a way that emphasize structure and balance even during chaotic moments. This creates a contrast between the order of visuals and the disorder of the action, adding depth to the viewing experience. The film's environment are not just background, they are active participants in the storytelling, influencing how scenes unfold and how characters interact with them. All the genre and the mood of the film work together to create a film that is both thrilling and atmospheric. It goes beyond standard action convention by focusing on tone, pacing, and visual style, resulting in a cinematic experience that feel immersive, control, and emotionally resonant. Before watching the film, audience expectations were already shaped by nearly a decade of consistent storytelling, stylistic identity, and franchise growth. By the time this fourth installment arrived, viewers were not approaching it as a standalone film but as a continuation of well established cinematic experience. These expectations vary slightly depending on a viewer's demographic, familiarity with the series, and individual genre preferences. But there were several clear patterns in what audience anticipated. From a demographic perspective, the primary audience consisted of adults and older teens who were drawn to high intensity action films. Fans of previous entries in the John Wick series expected a similar tone, serious, grounded, and focused on physical combat rather than comedic relief. This is not a family oriented franchise, and audience generally anticipated a mature viewing experience with stylized violence and emotional weight. At the same time, the film also attracted a global audience, partially due to the casting of internationally recognized actors such as Donnie Yen. His presence expanded the film appeal, particularly among viewers who appreciate martial arts cinema and character driven action performances. Long-time fan of the series came in very specific expectations shaped by earlier films. They expected the return of Keanu Reeves as a calm, controlled, and highly efficient protagonist. His portrayal of John Wick had become iconic, so we were anticipating not just action but a continuation of the character's emotional journey. There was also an expectation that the film would further explore the mysterious world of the High Tale, deepening the lore that had been gradually built across previous installments. This ongoing world building became one of the franchise defining feature, and audience expected chapter 4 to expand it even further. In terms of anticipated theme, viewers were prepared for a story centered on survival, freedom, and consequence. By this point in the series, John Wick is no longer just a man seeking revenge, he is someone trying to escape a powerful system that control his life. Audience expected the life to explore this struggle in a meaningful way, possibly leading to a sense of closure or resolution. There was also an expectation of emotional conflict, particularly in relationship between characters who were bound by loyalty but forced into opposition. This added a layer of depth beyond simple action, and viewers were increasingly aware that the series was as much about character and choice as it was about combat. Genre fans, especially those who closely follow action cinema, had even more refined expectation. Under the direction of Chad's Stahelski, the franchise had built a reputation for defining modern action through choreography and visual clarity. As a result, audience expected not just more action but better action, longer sequence, and more creative staging but an innovative use of environment. The anticipation was not for quick chaotic scenes but for carefully constructed moments that highlight silk and precision. Many series were particularly interested in how the film would push the boundaries of what had already been achieved in earlier chapter. Another important expectation involved the film's production scale. With each installment growing larger in scope, audience anticipated a more expensive story that would move across different locations and introduce new chapters. There was a sense that chapter 4 would be the most ambitious entry yet, both visually and narratively. This included expectation of grand set piece, elaborate cinematography, and a heightened sense of style. Viewers familiar with the series' visual identity expected a continuation of its signature look, bold lighting, strong color contrast, and carefully framed action. At the same time, there was also a degree of cautious expectation. Some viewers wondered whether the film would maintain the quality of previous entries while increasing its scale. In many franchises, larger budget and longer runtime can sometimes lead to excess or loss of focus. As a result, part of the audience approached the film with curiosity about whether it could balance expansion with discipline. Overall, audience expectations for the film were both high and specific. Viewers anticipated a film that would deliver intense action, meaningful character development, and visually striking experience, all while staying true to the identity that made the series successful. These expectations were not just about entertainment, but about seeing how far the franchise would evolve while maintaining its core strength. While analyzing the target audience of the film, it became clear that the film is designed with a very specific type of viewers in mind. While it has a broad global appeal, its tone, contact, and stylistic approach naturally align more closely with certain age group interests and genre preferences. In terms of age group, the film is primarily aimed at adult audience, generally those age 18 and above. This is largely due to its intense and stylized violence, which are a defining feature of the franchise. The action sequences are not just frequent but also detailed and prolonged, requiring a level of maturity from viewers to fully engage with the content. While older teenagers may also be drawn to the film, especially those already familiar with the series, it is not specifically crafted for younger audience or family viewing. The serious tone and minimal humor further reinforce this adult oriented focus, as the film does not attempt to soften its theme for broader accessibility. Looking at viewers' interest, the film strongly appeals to individuals who appreciate highly choreographed action and cinematic craftsmanship. Fans who enjoy martial art, tactical combat, and stylistic stunt work are particularly well suited for this type of movie. Under the direction of shared stylistic, the film emphasizes precision, physical performance, and visual clarity. This makes it especially appealing to viewers who value how action is executed, not just the fact that it exists. Those are viewers who notice camera movement, editing, rhythm, and choreography, and who prefer practical effect over heavy reliance on CGI. Another important segment of the target audience include fans of character-driven action stories. Although the film is action-heavy, it still maintains a central emotional thread through the character portrayed by Keanu Reeves. Viewers who are interested in themes such as personal struggle, loyalty, and the search for the freedom who will find additional depth in the narrative. This makes the film suitable not only for action enthusiasts but also for those who appreciate a balance between physical conflict and internal motivation. In terms of genre fan, the film is clearly tailored for action thriller fans, particularly those who enjoy darker and more stylized storytelling. It does not cater to viewers who prefer light-hearted entertainment, comedy, or purely dialogue-driven narrative. Instead, it leans toward a serious and immersive tone with a famous focus on atmosphere and intensity. Fan of crime-based stories and underground world will also find the film appealing, as it presents a structure and rule-bound society of essence that operate beneath the surface of everyday life. Additionally, the inclusion of actors like Donnie can broaden the film's appeal to audiences who enjoy international cinema and martial arts tradition. His presence brings a different style of performances and action, attracting viewers who may be familiar with Asian action films or who appreciate diverse fighting techniques. This helps the films reach beyond a purely Western audience and engage viewers from different cultural backgrounds. The films also resonate with viewers who enjoy visual storytelling and stylistic filmmaking. Its use of lighting, color, and composition create an experience that goes beyond basic narrative. This appeal to the audience who are interested in cinematography and artistic presentation, not just plot progression. Such viewers often look for films that offer a strong visual identity, and John Wick Chapter 4 delivered that through careful constructed scenes and environment. However, it is equally important to recognize who the film is not intended for. Viewers who are sensitive to violence or who prefer slow dialogue focused storytelling may find the films overwhelming or repetitive. Similarly, those looking for humor, romance, or family friendly themes are unlikely to connect with its tone and subject matter. The film does not attempt to appeal to all audiences, and this selective targeting is part of what it allows it to maintain a clear and consistent identity. Overall, the target audience for the film consists of mature viewers who appreciate intense action, strong visual style, and disciplined filmmaking. It is designed for those who enjoy immersive, high stake experience and who are willing to engage with the darker and more serious thematic world. The emotional experience of the film is shaped by a careful blend of intensity, strain, and underlying melancholy. While the film is widely recognized for its action and emotion, it evokes go beyond excitement or adrenaline. Instead, it offers a layered experience where mood, theme, and intended impact work together to create something that feels both powerful and reflective. In terms of mood, the film maintains a consistently serious and immersive tone. From the opening moment, there is a sense of weight and inevitability that surround the story. The world feels control, almost oppressive, and this atmosphere influences how the audience connect emotionally with the character. Rather than shifting between extreme of humor and drama, the film stays focused on a steady emotional current. This creates a feeling of tension that builds gradually, allowing viewers to become fully absorbed in the inner journey. The mood is not chaotic but deliberate, with each scene contributing to a larger emotional rhythm. The character portrayed by Keanu Reeves plays a central role in shaping this emotional experience. His performance is intentionally restrained, relying more on presence and physical expression than on dialogue. This quiet approach invites the audience to interpret his emotion rather than having them clearly explained. As a result, viewers often feel a sense of empathy that grows over time. There is a subtitle sadness in this journey, a sense that every action comes with a cost, and that even moments of victory carry a deeper emotion burden. The theme explored in the film further enhances emotional depth. At its core, the story revolves around ideas of freedom, consequence, and personal sacrifice. The protagonist is not simply fighting enemies, he is confronting a system that defines and limits his existence. This struggle gives the action a sense of purpose, transforming it from spectacle into something more meaningful. The audience is encouraged to reflect on what it means to seek freedom in a world which voices are restricted and loyalty often comes at a price. Another important theme is the complexity of relationship. Characters are often connected by shared histories, obligations, or code of honor. These connections create emotional tension, especially when individuals are forced into conflict despite mutual respect or understanding. This adds a layer of tragedy to the films as viewer fitness, not just physical battle but emotional ones as well. The presence of character like the one played by Donnie and reinforce this idea, showing how personal tie can complicate even the most straightforward confrontation. The intended emotional impact of the film is not limited to excitement. While the action sequences are designed to thrill, they are also meant to immerse the viewers in a continuous state of engagement. The extended fight scenes combined with the film pacing create a sense of endurance both for the character and the audience. This shared experience can lead to a feeling of exhaustion that mirrors the protagonist on journey. It is a deliberate choice, encourages viewer to feel the weight of the story rather than simply absorb it. At the same time, the film's often moment of quiet reflection. These pauses allow the audience to process what they have seen and to reconnect with the emotional core of the narrative. The contrast between action and stillness enhance the overall experience, making each moment feel more significant. This balance prevents the film from becoming overwhelming and help maintain a strong emotional connection throughout. Visually, the films also contribute to its emotional impact. The use of lighting, color, and composition create an atmosphere that supports the story theme. Dark tones and shadowy environment often reflect the internal struggle of the character, while brighter, more open spaces can suggest moment of clarity or transition. These stylistic choices are not just aesthetic, they are the part of how the film communicates emotion without relying on words. Overall, the chapter promises an emotional experience that is both intense and introspective. It combines action with a deeper exploration of mood and theme, offering viewers not just excitement but a sense of connection and reflection. The film invites its audience to engage on multiple levels, creating an experience that lingers even after the action has ended. At its core, the film presents a story that moves beyond surface level action and enters the realm of abstract ideas about control, identity, and liberation. Beneath the visible narrative of pursuit and conflict lies a deeper exploration of what it means to exist within a system that defines every choice, every relationship, and ultimately every outcome. The film's central idea is not simply about a man fighting enemy, but about an individual confronting the structure that governs his existence. One of the most prominent themes within this framework is the tension between freedom and control. The world of the film operates under a rigid and almost ritualistic system where rules are absolute and deviation carries severe consequences. This system is not just an external force, it becomes an internal reality for those who live within it. The protagonist's journey can therefore be understood as a struggle to reclaim autonomy in a space where autonomy is stylistically denied. His actions are not merely acts of resistance but attempt to redefine the boundaries of inner own identity. This lead into another key theme: identity as something constructed rather than inherent. The character portrayed by Keanu Reeves is known just as a person but as a symbol, a name that carries meaning, reputation, and expectation over time. This identity becomes both a source of power and form of imprisonment. The story raises the question of whether it is possible to separate oneself from the role that the world has assigned. In this sense, the narrative is less about physical survival and more about existential transformation. The concept of consequence is also central to the film's message. Every action within this world is part of a chain reaction where choices echo outward and return in unexpected way. There is no clear escape from consequences. Instead, the story suggests that individuals must confront and navigate the outcome of their decision. This creates a moral landscape that is complex and often ambiguous. Right and wrong are not clearly defined, and survival often depends on the ability to operate within these gray areas. Another important element of the story core idea is the notion of structure versus chaos. On the surface, the film's world appears chaotic, filled with violence and unpredictability. However, beneath this surface lies a highly organized system governed by codes, hierarchies, and tradition. This contrast highlights the paradox of order and within disorder. The system maintains control not by eliminating chaos but by maintaining and directing it. The protagonist's journey disrupts this balance, introducing a form of unpredictability that challenges the system's stability. Relationship within the film further reinforce its abstract themes. Characters are often bound by obligation that transcend personal desire. Loyalty, honor, and duty function as invisible forces that shape interaction and decision. These connections are rarely simple, but they are layered with histories, expectation, and conflict. The presence of character like the one portrayed by Donnie and illustrate how individuals can be simultaneously allies and adversaries depending on the demand of the system. They inhabit this duality, adapt to the narrative, emphasizing that human connection are rarely defined by a single dimension. The story concept can also be interpreted as a source of modern myth. The protagonist's journey follows a pattern that reassembles classical storyline structure where a figure moves through trial in search of resolution or transformation. Unlike traditional myths that often lead to clear redemption or victory, this narrative remains grounded in ambiguity. The outcome is not presenting as simple truth but as a complex resolution shaped by sacrifice and inevitability. The film's message, when viewed through this abstract lens, suggests that true freedom is not easily gained and may come at a significant cost. It questions where liberation is even possible within a system that is designed to perpetuate itself. At the same time, it acknowledges the human desire to seek meaning and agency even in the face of overwhelming constraint. This tension between aspiration and limitation is what gives the story its emotional and philosophical weight. Director Charles Celeste reinforces these ideas through a consistent emphasis on structure, repetition, and visual symbolism, the way scenes are constructed, the pattern of movement, and the recurring motifs all contribute to a sense of continuity and inevitability. These stylistic choices are not merely aesthetic, they are integral to how the film communicates its core theme. Ultimately, the core idea of the film lies in its exploration of what it means to confront an idea that defines identity, enforces control, and resists change. It represents a world where freedom is both a goal and paradox, and where the pursuit of autonomy requires not just strength but a willingness to face the consequence of transformation. The central conflict of the film operates on multiple levels, extended far beyond a simple struggle between opposing forces. At its deeper level, the conflict is rooted in the tension between individual will and an all-encompassing system of control. This system is not merely a backdrop, it is an active force that shapes behavior, dictates choices, and reinforces consequences with unwavering consistency. The protagonist, portrayed by Keanu Reeves, stands at the center of this tension, presenting an individual attempting to assert autonomy within a structure designed to suppress it. One of the most significant aspects of this conflict is the moral dilemma it creates. The world of the films operate according to strict code where loyalty, obligation, and hierarchy determine one's place. Within this framework, actions are rarely guided by personal desire alone. Instead, they are influenced by rules that demand compliance, often at the expense of personal value. This creates a situation in every decision carries ethical weight. The protagonist is constantly faced with choices that challenge his sense of identity and purpose, forcing him to navigate a path where there are no entirely right or wrong answers. This moral ambiguity is further intensified by the presence of other characters which are bound by the same system. Individuals are not simply ally or adversary, they are participants in a shared structure that limits their freedom. The character portrayed by Donnie and for example embodies this duality. He represents a figure who is both connected to the protagonist and constrained by external obligation. This dynamic highlights one of the film's key tensions, the conflict between personal relationship and institutional demand. Characters may feel loyalty or respect toward one another yet still find themselves in opposition due to forces beyond their control. Another layer of the central conflict lies in the challenge of identity. The protagonist is not only confronting external pressure but also grappling with the internal consequence of his past. His identity has been shaped by his role within this system, and separating itself from that role becomes a central struggle. This creates a form of internal conflict that mirrors the external one. On one hand, there is a desire to break free and redefine oneself. On the other hand, there is the weight of the history and expectation that continue to exert influence. The tension between these opposing forces generates a sense of inevitability, as if the character is caged in a cycle that is difficult to escape. The film also explored the concept of consequence as a driving force within the conflict. Every action is a part of a larger chain, and the effect of part scene continue to shape the present. This creates a persistent sense of pressure where the past is never truly resolved but instead become a constant presence. The protagonist's journey can therefore be seen as an attempt to confront and reconcile these accumulated consequences. However, the structure of the work suggests that such reconciliations may not be straightforward or even possible. The challenges faced within this conflict are not purely physical, they are deeply philosophical. The protagonist may navigate a world where power is maintained through structure and tradition. Challenging these powers require more than strength, it requires a willingness to question the very foundation of the system. This introduces a broader tension between stability and disruption. The system seeks to preserve itself, maintaining order through control, while the individual action introduces the possibility of change. This clash between preservation and transformation form a central axis of the conflict. Director Chad Stahelski emphasized this tension through the film's control and deliberate style. The visual structure of the film mirrors the rigidity of the world it portrayed, reinforcing the idea that everything operates within a defined framework. Again, this background moment of disruption carry greater significance as it challenged the established order. The stylistic approach enhanced the thematic conflict, making it not only a narrative element but also visual and emotional experience. Ultimately, the central conflict of the film is defined by its complexity and depth. It is not simply about overcoming obstacles but about confronting the nature of those obstacles, what they represent, the tension between freedom and control, identity and expectation, loyalty and self determination create a layered and thought provoking narrative. The film presents a world where choices are never simple and where every path forward is shaped by forces that extend beyond the individual. This makes the conflict not by compiling but also reflective of broader question about autonomy, responsibility, and the cost of change. The thematic landscape of the film extends far beyond its surface identity as an action film, offering a layered exploration of ethical questions, emotional journey, and broader cultural ideas. Why the film presents itself through movement, combat, and visual intensity. Its underlying themes give it a depth that invites reflection as much as excitement. One of the most prominent themes is the ethical question of freedom versus obligation. The world of the film is governed by a rigid system that demands loyalty and obedience. Within this structure, individuals are expected to follow rules that often conflict with personal desire or moral instincts. This creates a recurring ethical dilemma. Should one obey a system that ensures order but limits autonomy, or resist it in pursuit of personal freedom even at greater cost? The character portrayed by Keanu Reeves embodies this tension as his journey reflects a continuous struggle to reclaim agency in a world that denied. The film does not provide simple answer, instead presenting freedom as something that must be earned through sacrifice. Closely connected to this is the theme of consequence and accountability. Action within the narrative are never isolated, they ripple outward, shaping further event and relationship. The film suggests that every choice carries weight and that escaping the consequence of past action is nearly possible. This raises deeper ethical question about relatability. To what extent can an individual redefine themselves if they are constantly bound by what they have done before? The story implies that while change may be possible, it requires confronting and accepting these consequences rather than avoiding them. Another important theme is loyalty and its expectation. Relationship is a film and defined by a complex mixture of respect, obligation, and survival. Characters often find themselves torn between personal loyalty and the demand of the system they serve. This creates emotional charged situation where trust and duty collide. The presence of characters like the one portrayed by Donnie and highlight the conflict as bond between the individual are tested by circumstances beyond their control. The film explores whether loyalty is the strength that bind people together or a constraint that prevent them from acting freely. The emotional arc within the film are subtitle but significant rather than relying on overt expression or feeling. The narrative uses restraint to convey emotional depth. The protagonist's journey can be seen as one of endurance and gradual transformation. There is a persistent sense of exhaustion, not just physical but emotional, as the character continue to navigate a world that offer little relief. This create a quiet but powerful emotional arc where moments of stillness carry as much weight as moment of action. The audience is invited to interpret these emotions, creating a more personal and reflective experience. At the same time, the film explored the idea of identity as both a rule and a burden. The protagonist is defined by a name that carries meaning within the world he inhabits. This identity grants him power but also confines him, making it difficult to exist outside of the expectation attached to it. The theme raises question about whether identity is something that can be changed or escaped, or whether it becomes permanent once established. This struggle adds a philosophical dimension to the story as the director seeks not just survival but a definition of self. From a cultural perspective, the film presents a stylized interpretation of a global interconnected world. The narrative moves across different locations, each with its own visual and symbolic identity. This reflects a broader theme of globalization within hidden system where power structure operate beyond national boundaries. The film suggests that these systems are unified by shared rules and tradition, creating a sense of universality that transcends cultural differences. At the same time, it incorporates elements of various cultural aesthetic, blending them into a cohesive visual language. The rule of honor and tradition also emerges as a cultural theme. The system represented in the film is not purely based on power. It's sustained by code of conduct that resemble ritualistic practice. These traditions give the world a sense of order, but they also reinforce its rigidity. Characters are often bound by these codes even when they conflict with personal rules. This highlights the tension between tradition and change, suggesting that systems rooted in tradition are both stable and restrained to transformation. Director Charles Stellesti reinforced these themes through a consistent visual and narrative style. The structured composition of scenes, the repetition of pattern, and the controlled pacing all contribute to a sense of world gone by rule. At the same time, moment of disruption challenges this order, reflecting the broader thematic tension between order and freedom. Ultimately, the themes explored in the films are interconnected, forming a complex network of ideas about ethics, emotion, and culture. The film raises questions about what it means to be free and how individuals navigate system of power and whether identity can be shaped in the face of overwhelming constraint through its combination of action and interception. It offers a narrative that is both engaging and thought-provoking, inviting viewers to consider not just what happened but why it mattered. The emotional connection created by the film is built less on traditional storytelling and more on atmosphere, thematic weight, and the viewer's personal interpretation of what unfolds on screen. Without relying heavily on dialogue or overt emotional cue, the film invites the audience into a space where feeling is shaped through mood, repetition, and visual intensity. This approach allows viewers to connect in a way that feels internal rather than directed. The mood of the film plays a central role in establishing this connection. From beginning to end, there is a consistent sense of pressure as if the world itself is closing in. This is not a loud or chaotic intensity but a controlled and persistent one. The environment's lighting and pacing all contribute to a feeling of isolation and inevitability. Viewers are not simply watching events, they are placed within a carefully constructed emotional atmosphere that encourages immersion. The stillness between moments becomes just as important as the action, allowing space for reflection and emotional absorption. The restrained performances of the central character, portrayed by Keanu Reeves, strengthen this connection. Instead of expressing emotion openly, the character communicates through presence, movement, subtitle, physical cues. This minimalistic approach invites the audience to interpret rather than absorb, creating a more active emotional experience. Viewers may project their feelings on the character, filling in the emotional gaps with personal understanding. This technique fosters a deeper level of engagement because it requires participation rather than passive reception. The themes embedded within the film further enhance its emotional impact. Ideas such as freedom, consequence, and identity are not presenting an abstract concept alone. They are felt through the tone and rhythm of the film. The sense of being trapped within a system, for example, resonates on a universal level, even outside the context of the film's world. Many viewers can relate to the feeling of limitation or pressure imposed by external structure. This thematic connection allows the audience to see reflection of their own experience within the narrative, even if the setting itself is far removed from reality. Another important element is the way the film handles emotional contrast. Intense sequences are often allowed by a quieter moment, creating a rhythm that mirrors human emotional cycles. These contrasts prevent the experience from becoming overwhelming while also making each moment more impactful. The viewer is given time to process, to feel the weight of what has occurred, not to anticipate what might come next. This ebb and flow of intensity create a sustained emotional engagement that lasts throughout the film. The presence of other characters, including the one portrayed by Donnie Yen, add another layer to the emotional experience. Without relying on explicit exposition, the film suggests complex relationships shaped by shared histories and unspoken understanding. These connections introduce emotional tension that goes beyond physical conflict. Viewers are drawn into the subtitle dynamic between individuals, sensing the weight of loyalty, respect, and obligation. This adds depth to the experience as the audience become aware that every interaction carries emotional significance. The visual style of the film also contributes to its emotional resonance. Color, lighting, and composition are used not just for aesthetic purpose but to evoke feeling. Dark tones and shadows often create a sense of confinement or introspection, while more open and illuminated spaces can suggest moment of clarity or transition. These visual cues operate on a subconscious level, guiding the viewer's emotional response without the needing for explicit explanation. The result is an experience that feels cohesive and immersive, where the emotion is conveyed through the entire cinematic language. Director Chad Stylistic reinforced this connection by maintaining a consistent tone and structure. This deliberate pacing and controlled presentation allow the audience to remain grounded within the film's world. There is a sense of continuity that keeps the emotional experience stable even as the intensity fluctuates. This consistency helps build trust between the film and the viewer, making it easier to stay engaged and invested. Ultimately, the emotional connection of the film lies in its ability to engage viewer on a personal level without directly instructing them how to feel. It creates an environment where mood, theme, and style work together to evoke a response that is both individual and universal. By focusing on atmosphere and subtitle rather than explicit storytelling, the film offers an experience that lingers, encouraging viewers to reflect not only on what they have seen but on how it made them feel. In this film, the character design follows a structured yet layered approach, where each figure represents more than just an individual. They function as archetypes shaped by a control world. From a reviewer perspective, the film characters are not overly expressive in a traditional sense, but they carry depth through presence, restraint, and symbolic role. Starting with the character named Keanu Reeves, we see a figure who fit the archetype of the reluctant warrior or tragic warrior. His defining personality traits include discipline, emotional restraint, and quiet determination. He is not driven by impulsive behavior or visible anger. Instead, his actions feel calculated and necessary. This controlled warrior creates a sense of gravity around him, making every moment and decision feel meaningful. As a reviewer, what stands out is how the character communicate more through silence than dialogue. His minimal speech allowed the audience to project their own interpretation onto him, which strengthened the emotional connection. He represents a personal shape by experience where identity has become inseparable from survival. Moving to another key figure portrayed by Donnie, and we encounter a character that aligns with the honorable counterpart archetype. His personality traits include composure, intelligence, and strong adherence to personal code. Unlike the central figure, this character brings a sense of balance, someone who operates within the same world but with a slightly different internal philosophy. From a critical viewpoint, this character adds complexity to the narrative by reflecting what the main character would have been under different circumstances. This emotional tone associated with him is subtle but impactful, as his presence introduces themes of respect, inevitability, and quiet conflict. He is not defined by opposition but by coexistence within the same construct. The antagonist figure portrayed by Bill Skarsgard represents the embodiment of control and authority. His personality traits are marked by calculation, detachment, and a reliance on structure rather than physical action. Unlike more traditional villains, he does not rely on brute force but instead manipulates system and rule to maintain dominance. From a reviewer perspective, this approach makes him less emotionally expressive but more symbolically significant. He becomes a representation of the system itself rather than just an individual adversary. His archetype reinforces the central tension of the film, where conflict is not just personal but institutional. Another important presence is the character portrayed by Lawrence Fishburne, who fits the strategic ally or observer archetype. His personality traits include confidence, insight, and a sense of detachment from the immediate conflict. He operates from a position that allows him to observe and influence rather than directly engage. This creates a dynamic where he serves as both support and commentary within the narrative. From a critical standpoint, this character provides balance and offering moment of perspective in the story. Otherwise driven by intensity and isolation, what makes the character work in this film particularly interesting in how each role is defined by the relationship to a larger system. These are not the characters who exist independently, they are shaped by rule, expectation, and history that influence their behavior. This creates a sense of unity in their design where each archetype contributes to a broader thematic structure. In terms of personality, there is a noticeable emphasis on restraint across all major character. Emotional expression is often internalized, which align with the film's overall tone. Rather than dramatic outbursts, the character communicates through action, posture, and timing. These stylistic choices may distance viewer who prefer more explicit emotional cues, but it also creates a more immersive and interpretative experience for those willing to engage with subtitling. From a reviewer tone, it can be said that the film prioritizes consistency over transformation. The characters do not undergo dramatic personality shift. Instead, they reveal different aspects of themselves as the narrative progresses. This approach reinforces the idea that they are product of their environment shaped by forces that are difficult to escape. Ultimately, the character analysis of the film highlight a cast built on strong archetype refined through minimalism and controlled performances. The combination of archetype, personality trait, and the character create a narrative where individuals function both as people and as representation of larger ideas. This duality is what gives the film's character their lasting impact, marking them memorable not just for what they do but for what they symbolize. The acting in this film defined by restraints, physical expression, and an emotional subtitle that align closely with the film's overall tone. Rather than relying on dramatic dialogue or overt emotional display, the performances are built on presence, timing, and control intensely. This creates a viewing experience where emotion is felt beneath the surface, invite the audience to engage more deeply with what is not being said. At the center of it all, the performances by Keanu Reeves, whose portrays center a quiet but persistent emotional weight as the lead. He embraces minimalism, allowing small gestures and physical stillness to communicate internal conflict. His performance is not about transformation in a traditional sense, but about endurance. There is a consistent emotional tone he maintains, one that reflects exhaustion, focus, and a sense of inevitability. This approach may feel understated to some people, but it's precisely this restraint that make the performances effective. It allows the audience to project meaning onto his expression, creating a more personal and reflective connection. Reeves' physical commitment also play a crucial role in his performances. The emotional experience is closely tied to movement, posture, and rhythm. Every action feels deliberate, and this precision enhances the authenticity of the character. It is not just about performing action sequence, but about embodying a mindset through them. The result is a performance that feels cohesive, where emotional and physical elements are seamlessly integrated. The supporting cast add depth and variation to this emotional landscape. Donnie and deliver a performance that stand out for its balance of control and subtitled emotional expression. His presence introduces a different kind of energy, calm, composed yet layered with unspoken tension. He brings a sense of quiet dignity to his role, and his interaction carry an emotional complexity that does not rely on explicit dialogue. Her performance complement the lead by offering contrast, creating moments that feel charged without being overtly dramatic. Bill Skarsgard approached his role with a more stylized and controlled intensity. His performance is less about the role on a different frequency and one that emphasizes control rather than vulnerability. Another key contribution comes from Lawrence Fishburne, whose performance adds another layer of charisma and perspective. He brings a sense of confidence and a rhythm that contrasts with the heavier tone carried by the lead. His delivery feels measured but expressive, providing moments where the emotional tension is subtly redirected as part of the spotting. He helped create balance, ensuring that the film emotional tone does not become overly uniform. When discussing chemistry, the film takes an unconventional approach. Instead of relying on overt emotional exchange or traditional relationship dynamic, the chemistry between the characters is built through sheer presence and mutual understanding. Interaction often feel restrained, but they carry weight because of what is implied rather than what is stated. The connection between the lead and supporting character is defined by timing, space, and some title acknowledgement. This create a form of chemistry that feel mature, control, align with the film's overall style. The absence of exaggerated emotional expression allow the chemistry to feel more grounded. Characters do not need to declare their feeling, instead they reveal them through action and reaction. This can make the relationship feel more realistic within the context of the film's world, where communication is often indirect and shaped by the external pressure. From an emotional standpoint, the performance collectively create a sense of cohesion. Each actor contribute to a uniform tone where no single performances feel out of place. This consistency in style ensure that the audience remain immersed without sudden shift that might break the atmosphere. Director Charles Stalexi clearly guide this approach, encouraging performance that prioritize subtitle and alignment with the film's visual and thematic. Ultimately, the acting in the film is not about delivering dramatic highs and lows, but about maintaining a steady emotional current through the combined effort of the lead actor and the supporting cast and their understated chemistry. The film offers a performance style that feels controlled, immersive, and quietly powerful. In this film, the realism, character depth are approached in a way that differ from traditional dramatic storytelling. The film does not aim for realism in a literal everyday sense. Instead, it creates a stylized realism where characters feel believable within the rule of their own world. This distinction is important when evaluating how different character development, believability, and emotional range function throughout the film. Starting with the character development, the film takes a sustained and non-traditional path rather than presenting clear transformative arc with visible milestone. It focuses on gradual elevation. The character portrayed by Keanu Reeves is not someone who changed dramatically over time. Instead, he is someone who the layer are slowly uncover. His development is internal and subtly expressed through endurance rather than transformation. This approach may feel minimal on the surface, but it reflects a deeper consistency. He is a character shaped by experience, but his actions are continuation of that history rather than a departure from it. This form of development contribute to the film's sense of believability even within its heightened reality. When the physical world of the film may appear exaggerated, the emotional logic behind the character remain grounded. Their design feel consistent with their established identity and their behavior aligned with the structured environment they inhabit. Director Charles Staleski reinforced this by maintaining a clear set of rules within the film's universe. Because these rules are consistent, the audience can accept the character action as believable even when the situation themselves are extreme. Another important factor that enhances believability is the emphasis on physical authenticity. The performance, particularly by Keanu Reeves, are rooted in real moment and control execution. This physical realism supports the emotional credibility of the character. When a character moves with precision and intention, it reflects a mindset that feels discipline and experience. This connection between physical behavior and emotional state help ground the character, making feel more despite the stylized setting. The sporting character also contribute to the sense of depth and realism. For example, the character portrayed by Donnie and demonstrate a balance between individuality and shared experience. His presence suggests a life shaped by similar faces, and his parallel add credibility to his interaction. He does not feel like a separate, exaggerated figure. Instead, he exists a part of the same world, gone by the same principle. This consistency across characters strengthens the overall realism of the narrative. When examining emotional range, the film gain a chooses subtlety over intensity. Characters do not frequently display wide emotional variation. Instead, they operate within a narrow but controlled spectrum. This does not indicate a lack of depth, but rather a different style of expression. Emotions are internalized, often communicated through pauses, posture, or silence. The character portrayed by Leoness Fishburne, for instance, introduce moment of tonal variation and the event are measured and deliberate rather than exaggerated. These limited emotional range can actually enhance realism within the context of the film's world. The character exists in an environment where control and discipline are essential, and overt emotional expression might feel out of place. By keeping emotions contained, the film reflects the physiological state of individuals who have adopted to constant pressure This restraint became a form of realism, representing how people might behave when survival depend on maintaining composure. However, this approach may not resonate equally with all viewers. Those who expect visible emotional transformation and expressive dialogue may find the character distant in the film require the audience to engage more actively interpreting subtitle cues rather than being guided by explicit signal. For viewers who appreciate this style, the depth becomes more rewarding as it invites reflection and personal interpretation. Ultimately, the realism and depth in this film are rooted in consistency and restraint. Character development is gradual and internal believability is maintained through structure, world building, and physical authenticity. And the emotional range is expressed through subtitle controlled performances rather than aiming for conventional realism. The film created its own vision, one where characters feel genuine not because they mirror everyday life but because they remain true to the world they inhabit. The production budget of the film can be understood as a carefully scaled investment that reflects both the growth of the franchise and the increasing ambition of its filmmaking approach. The estimated cost of the film fall in the range of $90 million to $100 million, placing it within the mid to high tier of modern action cinema. This range is significant because it shows a balance between expansion and control. The film is clearly larger than its predecessor, yet it does not reach the extreme budget level often associated with major studio blockbuster. When considering cost range, it is useful to view this figure in context. Many contemporary action or franchise films operate within budget exceeding $150 million, with some surpassing $200 million due to the heavy reliance on visual effect and large-scale digital production. In comparison, the film remained more meager. It allocated resources toward practical execution rather than expensive digital construction, which allow it to maintain a high level of visual quality without entering the highest budget bracket. This positions the film in a category where efficiency becomes a defining characteristic. A closer look at resource allocation reveals how the budget supports the film identity. A substantial portion of the cost is directed toward action, choreography, and stunt coordination. Under the guidance of the Chad Stahelski, the film prioritizes physically perform action sequences that require extensive preparation. These sequences involve trained performance, detailed rehearsal schedule, and precise coordination between camera and movement, unlike CGI-based action, which can be adjusted in post-production. Practical choreography demand time and repetition during filming, increasing production costs but also enhancing realism and clarity. Another major allocation involves international production logistics. The film utilized multiple global locations, which introduced additional expenses related to travel, equipment, transport permits, and local crew coordination. Shooting in real environment contribute to the film's visual richness and authenticity, but it also requires a high level of planning and financial commitment. This choice reflects a deliberate prioritization of atmosphere and scale over cost-saving alternatives such as studio-based set or digital backdrop. Cast compensation is also a notable component of the budget. As the franchise has grown, the value of its leading and supporting actor has increased. Accordingly, the presence of Keanu Reeves as the central figure represents both continuity and star power, while the inclusion of internationally recognized performers like Donnie and add broader market appeal. These casting decisions contribute to the overall cost but are aligned within the film's strategy of maintaining strong performance quality and global reach. In addition, the film invests in cinematography and production design, which are essential to its stylistic identity. The use of control, lighting, detail, set construction, and carefully composed shoot requires specialized movement for the increase the technical demand of production. These elements are not simply aesthetic choices, they are integral to how the film presents its action atmosphere, making them a necessary part of the budget allocation. When compared to the similar film, the film demonstrates a distinct approach to cost management. Many action films in a similar genre rely heavily on computer generated imagery, which can significantly raise production expenses. In contrast, this film achieves a comparable level of spectacle through practical method, allowing it to remain with a more controlled budget range. This approach highlights a difference in production philosophy where emphasis is placed on execution rather than scale alone. Overall, the production budget of the film Chapter 4, John Wick Chapter 4 reflects a strategic balance between ambition and efficiency. The cost range, allocation of resources, and comparison to similar films all indicate a focused investment in elements that directly enhance the viewer experience rather than expanding indiscriminately. The film's channels its budget into areas that support its core strength, resulting in a production that feel both substantial and carefully managed. The domestic box office performance of the film reflects a strong and steady expansion of the franchise within the North American market, particularly in the United States and Canada. The film earned approximately $187 million domestically, which represents a significant portion of its overall global revenue. This figure is important not just for its size but for what it reveals about audience management and the film position within its genre. Within this region, the film benefited from an established and loyal audience base that had grown with each installment. Early entries in the series had already built credibility among viewers who appreciate action films within a serious tone and focus on choreography. By the time this fourth installment was released, audience expectations were clear, but there was a high level of confidence in the quality of the product. This trust translated into a strong opening weekend with the film earning over $70 million in its first few days. Such a performance indicates on not only anticipation but also willingness among audience to prioritize theatrical viewing. In terms of audience trend, the film's success highlight the continued demand for adult oriented action cinema. Unlike many large scale releases that aim for a broad family oriented audience, this film remained firmly targeted toward mature viewers. Its tone, pacing, style appeal to those who prefer intensity, discipline, and a more grounded approach to action. This focus allowed it to stand in a market often dominated by effect-heavy blockbusters. The domestic audience responded positively to this distinction, suggesting there is a strong segment of viewers seeking alternative to more conventional format. Another trend evident in the domestic performance is the importance of franchise consistency. The John Wick series has maintained a clear identity across all its entries, but this consistency has helped a key role in building audience loyalty. Viewers knew what to expect in terms of style, tone, and execution, which reduced uncertainty and encouraged earlier attendance. There is a reflected in the film's opening figure, which were the highest in the series. The growth from previous installment demonstrate a pattern of increasing engagement where each new release attract only returning fan but also new viewers drawn by the franchise reputation. The film domestic performance also benefited from the presence of recognizable talent, including Keanu Reeves, whose association with the role has become a defining moment of the series. His continued involvement reinforced continuity and added to the film's appeal among long-time fans. At the same time, the inclusion of actors such as Donnie and contribute to the broader audience reach, attracting viewers who appreciate different style of action performances. This combination of familiar and diverse talent sports sustained interest across different segments of the domestic market. When compared to the similar action film, the film demonstrated a notable level of efficiency and audience connection. Many films with the same genre operate with larger budget and broader marketing strategy, yet do not always achieve the same level of consistent engagement. In contrast, this film rely on a well-defined identity and disciplined execution, which resonates strongly with its target audience. Its ability to generate both a strong opening and steady earning over time indicate positive word of mouth and continued viewer interest beyond the initial release period. The domestic box office performance also reflects broader shift in viewing habit following changes in the theatrical landscape. In recent years, audiences have become more selective about which films they choose to watch in cinema. The success of John Wick Chapter 4 suggests that film offering a distant and high quality experience can still draw significant crowd. Its emphasis on practical action, visual clarity, and immersive style provide a compelling reason for audience to choose the theatrical format. Overall, the domestic earning of the film illustrate a combination of the regional and strong original sport, evolving audience preferences, and effective franchise development. The film's performance is not simply a result of skill or marketing, but of a sustained relationship with its audience. By maintaining consistency, delivering on expectation, and appealing to a clearly defined viewer base, it achieves a level of success that reflects both its quality and its understanding of the domestic market. The international box office performance of the film demonstrates how the franchise has evolved into a globally recognized brand with strong appeal across multiple regions. Outside of North America, the film earned approximately 250 to $260 million, which represent the majority share of its total worldwide revenue. This indication that while the domestic market remains important, the film global success is heavily driven by international audience. Looking at regional performances, the film show particularly strong results in Europe, Latin America, and part of Asia. European markets, especially countries like the United Kingdom, Germany, and France, contributed significantly to the overall international total. These regions have historically responding well to action film with a serious tone and stylized representation, and this film emphasis on choreography and visual design aligned with those performances. In Latin America, the franchise also performed consistently by benefiting from a growing audience base that value high intensity action and recognizable global star. Asian market represented a more varied picture but still contributed meaningfully to the overall earning. The presence of Donnie and play a role in attracting attention in certain regions where martial art cinema has a strong culture presence. While the film did not rely heavily on localized storytelling, its action style, grounded in physical performance and discipline, resonated with audience familiar with similar cinematic tradition. This helped strengthen its reputation beyond Western market, even if performance level differ between countries in terms of market reception. The film benefited from a reputation of our quality that had been built over previous installment. International audience often rely on word of mouth and franchise consistency when deciding which film to watch, and John Wick Chapter 4 entered the market with a strong foundation. Reviews and audience reaction emphasize its technical execution, particularly its action choreography and visual style. This positive reception contributed to the sustained attendance, allowing the film to perform steadily over multiple weeks rather than relying slowly on its opening. Another important factor in international success is the film's ability to communicate across language barrier. Because the storytelling relies heavily on visual element and physical performance, it translates effectively to different cultural contexts. The limited dependence on dialogue make it accessible to a wide audience, allowing viewers to engage with the films regardless of language differences. This universality is a key advantage in international market where films with complex or dialogue-heavy narrative may face limitations. The marketing impact also play a crucial role in shaping international earning. Promotional campaign emphasize the film's global scale, highlighting its diverse location. International coast trailers focus on visual striking action sequence and recognizable imagery rather than plot details, making them effective across different regions. This approach made that the film core appeal, its style and intensity were clearly communicated to the audience worldwide. Additionally, the marketing leveraged the established image of Keanu Reeves as a central figure associated with the franchise. His consistent presence across all entries provided a sense of continuity that resonated internationally. Audience in various regions recognize him as a defining element of the series, which strengthened the film's brand identity and contributed to its global appeal. When compared to the similar action film, this film performed strongly in terms of international efficiency. Many large-scale productions rely heavily on international market to recover high production costs, often requiring massive earning to achieve profitability. In contrast, this film operated with a more moderate budget, meaning its international revenue represent a highly effective return on investment. Its ability to generate over half its total earning from international market highlight the strength of its global positioning. Over international box office performance of the film reflect a combination of strategic market, cross-cultural account accessibility, and consistent franchise development. By focusing on visual storytelling, maintaining a clear identity, the film successfully engages audience across diverse regions. Its international success is not just a result of skill, but of its ability to connect with viewers through style, performance, and a universally understood cinematic language. The worldwide financial performance of the film reflect a well-balanced relationship between production investment, global audience reach, and revenue recovery. The film achieved a worldwide gross of approximately 440 to 450 million dollar, combining both domestic and international, and in this figure position it as the highest grossing entry in the franchise, indicating not only growth in audience size but also sustained interest across multiple markets. From a global audience perspective, the film earnings are distributed across a wide geographic range, with a slightly larger share coming from international market. This distribution highlights the importance of global accessibility in modern cinema. The film relies on visual storytelling, physical performance, and minimal dialogue, making it adaptable to diverse audience, allowing it to perform consistently across the region with different languages and culture preferences rather than depending on a single dominant market. The film benefited from cumulative contribution across many territories, which stabilized its overall financial performance. Understanding the concept of break-even requires looking beyond the production budget alone. While the film production cost is estimated at around 90 to 100 million dollars, this figure does not represent the total investment. Additional expenses such as marketing, promotions, and distribution significantly increase overall cost. Marketing campaigns for a global release can range from $50 million to $100 million or more, depending on the scale and number of regions involved. When these costs are combined, the total expenditure for the film likely fall in the range of 150 to $200 million. However, studio do not retain the full box office revenue. A portion of ticket sale goes to the theaters, with the remaining share returning to the distributor and producers. This means that a film generally need to earn at least 2 to 2.5 times its total cost to reach break-even status. In the case of John Wick Chapter 4, this places the estimated break-even point somewhere between $300 million and $400 million in worldwide gross, giving its total earning of around 440 to 450 million dollars. The film surpasses this threshold, indicating that this is not only recovered its cost but also generate a profit. This margin of success is particularly notable because it achieved without relying on extremely high production spending. The film demonstrates that controlled budgeting combined with strong audience engagement can lead to the efficient financial outcome. Beyond theoretical earning, revenue stream further strengthen the film financial position. This include digital rentals, streaming rights, and physical media sales, television licensing. While these streams are not always immediately visible in box office figure, they contribute significant long-term profitability for a franchise like John Wick, which has a dedicated fan base. These additional channels can extend the film's revenue lifecycle well beyond its theatrical run. Distribution costs also play a key role in the overall analysis. Realizing a film across multiple international markets involve logistical expenses such as localization, advertising, variation, and coordination with regional distributor. These costs are necessary to ensure that the film reaches its intended audience effectively. In this case, the global distribution strategy appeared to have been well executed, as evident by the film's balanced performance across regions. The involvement of recognizable talent, including Keanu Reeves, further support the film's financial success by enhancing its marketability. A consistent lead presence help maintain brand identity, which is crucial for attracting both returning viewers and new audience. This stability reduce financial risk and contribute to a stronger opening performance and sustain interest. Overall, the worldwide growth and break-even analysis of the film illustrate a model of financial efficiency. The film leverages a moderate production budget, expand its reach through global distribution, and benefit from multiple revenue streams. By exceeding its estimated break-even point, it demonstrates how strategic planning and audience alignment can result in a successful and sustainable financial outcome. The profitability of the film can be evaluated by comparing its total revenue against its combined production and distribution cost, as well as considering the additional income generated beyond theatrical release. From an analytical standpoint, the film represents a strong example of a mid to high budget production achieving different financial return. Starting with revenue versus cost, the film production budget is estimated at approximately $900 to $100 million, where marketing and distribution expenses are included. The total cost likely rises to around $150 to $200 million. These additional expenses cover global advertising campaigns, promotional material, and the logistics required to release the films across international multiple markets. In the film industry, it is generally accepted that the movie must earn at least 2 to 2.5 times its total cost to reach profitability due to its share of box office revenue retained by theater. With a worldwide gross of roughly $440 to $450 million, the film clearly exceeds this threshold. Even after accounting for the portion of revenue that goes to exhibitors, the film generates sufficient return to cover its total investment and more into profitability territory. This outcome is particularly notable because the film does not rely on high production budget compared to other action blockbuster, yet it achieves comparable level of audience engagement. Another important factor in profitability is ancillary income, which extend the film's earning beyond theatrical release. These revenue extremes include digital rental, streaming platform licensing, physical media sales, and television broadcasting rights. For a franchise with an established audience base, this channel can contribute significantly to the overall point profit. The consistent popularity of the audience increased the livelihood of strong performance in these areas, as viewers who did not watch the film in theater may choose to access it through home entertainment platform. The presence of Keanu Reeves as the lead also enhanced the film's long-term values. His association with the franchise strengthened its brand identity, making it more attractive to streaming services and distributors. This is in turn can lead to more favorable licensing deal and sustained revenue over time. Additionally, the inclusion of internationally recognized actors such as Donnie and helped broaden the film's appeal, increasing its potential reach in global markets and supporting continued earnings across different regions. When examining return on investment, the film performed well within its category. ROI can be understood as the ratio of profit generated relative to the initial investment, while exact profit figure depends on internal studio accounting. A general estimate suggests that the film's earnings significantly exceed its combined cost, resulting in a positive and healthy ROI compared to the larger blockbuster with budget exceeding $200 million, which required extremely box office return to break even. Thus, figure operate with a more manageable financial structure. This allows it to achieve profitable with less risk. The film production approach also contribute to its financial efficiency. Under the direction of the Charles Selinsky, the emphasis on practical action and control production design help keep cost with a defined range by focusing sources on choreography, performance, and visual criteria that extensively the film maximize the impact of its budget. This discipline, cost, and revenue. In addition, the franchise consistent identity reduce uncertainty in the marketplace. Audience now what to expect in terms of tone and quality, which increase the likelihood of strong opening performance and sustained interest. This predictability is valuable from a financial perspective as it lowers the risk associated with large-scale investment. Overall, the profitability analysis of the film indicate that the film is financially successful through a combination of strong box office performance, additional revenue stream, and the efficient cost management. It achieved a positive return on investment. The film demonstrates how well managed production supported by clear brand and global audience appeal can generate substantial performance without relying on excessive spending. The general audience reaction to the film can be understood as a combination of strong engagement, positive feedback, and sustained interest across different viewer groups. While response vary depend on demographic and personal preferences, the overall reception reflects a film that successfully connects with its intended audience while also expanded its reach from a demographic perspective. The film primarily associated with adult viewers, particularly those between the age of 18 and 45 who are drawn to the action-driven cinema. Film tend to value intensity, technical execution, and immersive experience, all of which the film deliver in a consistent manner. Male audience form a significant portion of the viewership, which align with typical trend in the action genre, but there was also noticeable engagement from female viewers who appreciate stylized storytelling and strong visual design. Additional international audience play a major role in shaping the film reception, indicating that its appeal extend beyond a simple cultural regional group. In terms of viewers' feedback, the response was largely positive, with many audience members highlighting the film commitment to quality and consistency. A common theme in audience reaction is appreciation for the film discipline approach to action and its distance visual style. Viewers often express satisfaction with the way the film maintains a clear identity rather than attempting to appeal to all audience. This sense of focus contributed to a perception of authenticity, which is highly valued among fans of the genre. Another aspect of the feedback involved the film's pacing and tone. Many viewers responding were to a deliberate rhythm, noting that the balance between intensity and quieter moment enhanced the overall experience. However, some audience members found the extended runtime and sustained intensity challenging, particularly those who prefer faster pacing or more variation in tone. This mixed reaction highlight how the film's stylistic choices, while effective for its target audience, may not align with all viewing preferences. Engagement level for the film were notably high, both during its theatrical run and in discussion that follow. Audience were not only watching the film but execution also talking about it, sharing opinion, analyzing its style and execution. This style of engagement is an important indicator of impact, as it suggests that the film leave a lasting impression. Online discussion reviews suggest that the films leave a lasting impression. Online discussion reviews and social media activity reflect a strong interest in the film's technical aspect, leading its choreography and cinematography rather than focusing solely on narrative element. Viewers engage with how the film was made, which point to a deeper level of appreciation. The presence of Keanu Reeves also influenced audience reaction significantly. His established association with the franchise contributed to a sense of continuity and trust, encouraging both returning viewers and new audience to engage with the film. His performance style, characterized by restraint and physical commitment, was widely recognized as a defining feature of the viewer experience. This consistency played a role in maintaining audience loyalty over multiple investment. Additionally, the film global appeal is reflective in the diversity of its audience reaction. Viewers from different regions responded positively to its visual storytelling and universal theme, which do not rely heavily on language or cultural specificity. This broad accessibility contributed to shared viewing experience where audience from various backgrounds could connect with the films in similar way. The inclusion of internationally recognized performance further supported this engagement, attracting attention from different segments of the global audience. At the same time, the film focus style means that it does not attempt to satisfy every viewer. Some audience members who prefer lighter entertainment or more dialogue driven express than less enthusiasm. This reflective appeal, however, can be seen as a strength rather than a limitation. By maintaining a clear identity, the film ensures that it resonates strongly with its intended audience, even if it does not achieve universal approval. Overall, audience reaction to the film reflect a high level of satisfaction among its core demographic, combined with strong engagement and ongoing discussion. The film's ability to generate both immediate and sustained interest demonstrates its effectiveness in connecting with viewers through style, tone, and consistency. The box office performance of the film play very important role and significant role in shaping how the film is perceived by audience, critics, and the industry as a whole. Financial success does more than indicate of popularity. It often influences credibility, long-term reputation, and the way a film is positioned with its genre. In this case, the film's strong earning contribute directly to a perception of both quality and culture elements. From the perspective of critical reception, box office success tend to reinforce positive evaluation, while critics base their review on artistic and technical merit. Strong audience turnout can validate these opinions and amplify their impact. While a film performs well commercially, it signals that its qualities resonate beyond a niche audience. For this film, its financial success support the idea that its disciplined action style, visual consistency, and controlled storytelling are not only critically appreciated but also widely accepted by general reviews. This alignment between critics and audience strengthens the film's overall standing and encourages broader recognition. At the same time, the box office performance can influence how future critical discussion are framed. A financial successful film is more likely to be referenced in conversation about genre evaluation and the filmmaking. A technician in this success evaluate the film from being just another entry in a franchise to being considered a benchmark within its category. The work of Chair Stylisty, for example, gain additional credibility when supported by strong commercial results that demonstrate that a stylistic approach is both artistically effective and commercially viable. Now we talk about the studio reputation is equally important for the companies involved in producing and distributing the film. Strong box office performance reinforced confidence in their strategic decision. It suggests that investing in a mid to high budget action film with a clear identity can yield substantial return. This can influence future production choices, encourages studios to support projects that prioritize craftsmanship and consistency rather than relying solely on large scale spectrum. A successful outcome also enhances studio image with the industry positioning it as capable of managing both creative and financial aspect of effectively. In addition, the film's success strengthened the overall brand of the strategy. Consistent box office growth across multiple investment signals credibility, which is valuable in an industry where financial risk is always a concern. The continued presence of the Keanu contribute to their stability as audience resonate his involvement with a sustained level of quality. This connection between performer, franchise, and financial success create a feedback loop where each successful release further enhance audience trust and anticipation. When considering comparison, the film's box office performance has a notable effect on how it positions with the action category. Many modern action films rely heavily on large budget, extensive visual effect, and broad action films rely heavily on large budget, extensive visual effect, and broad marketing campaign to achieve high earning. In contrast, the film demonstrates that a moral focus upon center on choreography, practical effect, and visual clarity can achieve comparable success. This challenges conventional assumption about what drives profitability in the genre. As a result, the film is often perceived as a model of efficiency and precision. Its success suggests that audiences are responsive to well executed action that emphasize technique over scale. This perception can influence how other films in this genre are evaluating, raising expectation for clarity, consistency, and craftsmanship. It also encouraging comparison with both higher budget and blockbuster and smaller action film, positioning it as a middle ground that combine accessibility with artistic content. Another aspect of the perception influenced by box office performance is longevity. Films that perform well financially are more likely to remain relevant over time as they continue to be discussed, referenced, and revisited. The sustained earning of the film contribute to its visibility, ensuring that it remains a part of ongoing conversation about action cinema. This continued presence reinforces reputation and allows it to shape audience expectation for future release. However, it is important to note that box office success does not automatically guarantee universal approval. Some viewers and critics may still question certain aspect of the film, such as pacing or stylistic choices. Nevertheless, strong financial performance often outweigh these concerning the broader perspective, as it indicates that the film has successfully connected with a large audience. Overall, the box office impact on the film is substantial. It enhanced critical credibility, strengthened studio reputation, and evaluate the film status within its genre by achieving both commercial success and audience engagement. The film positioned itself as a significant entry in modern action cinema, demonstrate how financial performance can shape not just success but also legacy. These chapters of the film John Wick stand out, a refined example of modern action filmmaking, combining strong cinematic quality with a clear and disciplined creative view. From a reviewer perspective, the film's greatest strength lies in its visual storytelling and technical precision. The cinematography is carefully constructed with controlled lighting, the fluid camera movement, and long take that elevate action into something almost artistic. This attention to detail reflect a high level of production value where every frame feels intentional rather than excessive. Unlike the direction of Chad Stahelski, the film maintains a consistent tone and structure, avoiding the chaotic editing often found in the emphasis on practical action and choreography. Enhanced realism with its style, but making the experience immersive and visually engaging. This disciplined approach is one of the film's defining strengths. In terms of performance, Keanu Reeves delivered a restrained yet effective portrait, relying on physical expression and presence rather than dialogue. His consistency anchored the film while spotting performance, particularly from Donnie and Ad Nose, and contrast the acting style overall aligning well with the film's tone. Through its realism may feel emotionally distant for some viewers. This film is best suited for a specific type of viewers, particularly those who appreciate style-driven cinema and disciplined storytelling. In terms of audience type, the film strongly appeals to viewers who enjoy immersive, high-intensity experience where visual storytelling take priority over dialogue. If someone value atmosphere, choreography, and carefully constructed action, this film offer a rewarding experience. It is specifically engaging for audience who like films that communicate emotion through tone and movement rather than explicit explanation. Looking at genre preferences, the movie is ideal for fan of action thriller with a serious and stylized approach. People who enjoy grounded yet visually artistic combat sequence and who are interested in the craft being filmmaking will likely find it compelling. It is also a good fit for those who appreciate themes reflective manner. However, it may not appeal to viewers who prefer light-hearted entertainment, fast-paced storytelling with frequent tonal shift or dialogue heavy narrative. The film consistent on emphasis on repetition can feel demanding for those expecting variety or humor. In terms of age group, the film is clearly intended for mature audience, generally 18 and above. Intensity of stylized violence and serious mode require a level of emotional and cognitive engagement that further younger viewers may not fully appreciate. Older teens who are already familiar with the genre may enjoy it, but it is also designed as a casual or family friendly viewing experience. This film is recommended for viewers who seek a confused, visually rich, and emotionally restrained cinematic experience, while those looking for lighter, more accessible storytelling may less find it less engaging.